The Vakarian survey vessel, Eternal Vigilance, glides silently into Earth's orbit. Commander Zith'lak peers through the observation dome, violet eyes widening at the blue planet below. "Begin preliminary scans," she orders, her voice steady despite the excitement rippling through the bridge crew. Earth has been flagged for unusual electromagnetic patterns, suggesting a civilization on the cusp of interstellar discovery. "Life signs are abundant and diverse, Commander," reports Science Officer Kelnav, his slender fingers dancing across holographic displays, particularly concentrated in coastal regions and urban centers. Zith'lak nods, her translucent antennae quivering slightly with anticipation. The Vakarians have catalogued thousands of pre-FTL civilizations, but something about Earth's electromagnetic signature suggested unusual technological development patterns. Deploy observation drones. Focus on population centers near oceans. Standard protocol. Remain undetected and gather sociological baseline data. The observation drones deploy like metallic seeds, scattering across the planet's surface, their quantum stealth technology rendering them invisible to human detection methods. Within hours, data begins flowing back to the Eternal Vigilance. "Commander, you should see this," calls Junior Analyst Trelvor, her voice containing an unusual tremor. Vakarians prided themselves on emotional composure, and such obvious disturbance was rare. Zith'lak glides across the command deck, her lightweight exoframe barely making a sound. The display shows a bustling San Francisco marketplace with humans moving about their daily activities. A family of 4 seated at a restaurant's outdoor patio is being served large white plates with what appears to be prepared food. "Magnify and analyze contents," Zith'lak commands as the footage streams to the central analysis node. The ship's bioscanners begin processing the molecular composition of the meal. Kelnav's breathing accelerates as the results appear. "Impossible. Run diagnostics on the bioscanners." "What is it?" Zith'lak demands, noticing the sudden tension spreading through the command crew. "According to our scans, the primary protein source on these plates is..." Kelnav pauses, double-checking the results. Carcharodon carcharias, taxonomically identified as this planet's apex marine predator, known locally as great white shark. The commander freezes the image, certain there must be an error. The Vakarians evolved as prey species, their entire civilization built upon avoiding apex predators, not consuming them. Their history, technology, culture, everything about their species development centered around predator detection and avoidance. "Run full diagnostic sequence on the bioscanners," she orders, moving closer to the display. No sentient species would deliberately consume an apex predator. It defies evolutionary logic. The technician's antenna quiver as she reviews the diagnostic results. "Scanners functioning at optimal capacity, Commander. The molecular structure confirms it. The humans are indeed eating their planet's supreme marine predator." Zith'lak studies the humans' expressions as they consume the meal. And based on their physiological responses, they appear to be enjoying it. The bridge falls silent as implications cascade through the collective Vakarian consciousness. Their entire understanding of evolutionary progression and species development assumed certain constants across the galaxy. Chief among them, that prey species fear predators. They don't eat them. "Expand surveillance parameters," Zith'lak finally orders, her voice quieter now. "I want to know if this is anomalous behavior or a widespread practice. Focus additional drones on their food production and consumption patterns." As the crew moves to comply, Zith'lak remains transfixed by the image of the human family casually consuming the flesh of an apex predator. If such a fundamental assumption about species development could be wrong, what other Valkyrian certainties might crumble upon contact with humanity? They're doing what? Science Officer Kelnav drops his data tablet, the clatter echoing through the research bay. The expanded surveillance has revealed humans not just eating sharks, but actively hunting them. Replay sequence, he demands, his professional composure momentarily fractured. The central display activates, showing a fishing vessel off Australia's coast. The morning sun glints off the ocean as a group of humans crowd the stern, clearly excited about something in the water. A massive tiger shark thrashes at the end of a reinforced line. The humans cheer as they work together, hauling the powerful predator aboard their vessel. Their faces show no fear, only triumph and exhilaration. Without hesitation, they dispatch the shark, then pose for photographs beside the magnificent creature. This violates everything we understand about evolutionary progression. Kelnav whispers, his antennae flattened against his head in distress. Prey species don't hunt predators. It's fundamentally inefficient from an energy expenditure perspective. Junior analyst Trelvar, who has been quietly analyzing data in the corner, angles her screen toward the science officer. That's not even the most perplexing behavior, sir. She taps a command, bringing up new footage from South Africa. The research team watches, mandibles slack with astonishment, as humans deliberately lower themselves in metal cages into waters teeming with great whites. The predators circle the cages, occasionally striking them with enough force to make the entire structure shudder. Yet the humans inside press cameras against the bars, clearly seeking closer views of the massive hunters. They're risking their lives to observe these creatures. For what purpose? Kelnav asks, unable to reconcile the behavior with any rational evolutionary strategy. For recreation, Trelvar replies, her voice barely audible. They call it adventure tourism. They pay currency for the experience. Commander Zithlak enters the research bay, immediately sensing the tension. I assume you found something significant. Trelvar nods, tapping her screen again. This was recorded yesterday near a human research facility dedicated to shark biology. The footage shows a small boat with 3 humans aboard. A young female human works calmly beside a sedated great white shark floating alongside their vessel. With precise movements, she implants a tracking device mere inches from jaws that could sever her arm in an instant. Her expression shows no fear, only professional focus. A senior analyst excuses himself from the room, overwhelmed by the sight of a prey species voluntarily making physical contact with an apex predator. How is this possible? Zithlak asks, her usual composure slipping. Their physical capabilities are unexceptional. They lack significant natural weapons or defenses. Yet they treat these predators as if they pose no threat. Trelvar hesitates before offering her theory. I believe it's their tool use, Commander. Observe how they've extended their capabilities through technology. She highlights the research vessel's equipment, the tracking devices, the specialized restraints. Impressive, Zithlak acknowledges, but tool use alone doesn't explain their psychological comfort with apex predators. Many species develop tools without developing predator hunting behaviors. Kelnav retrieves his dropped tablet. There's more, Commander. We've analyzed their global information network. Sharks aren't the only predators they hunt and consume. They target nearly every apex predator on their planet, land, sea, and air. Zithlak stares at the images of humans casually interacting with creatures that, by all evolutionary logic, should terrify them. Begin cultural analysis immediately. I want to understand how any species could evolve to see apex predators as resources rather than existential threats. She turns to leave, then pauses, and prepare a psychological profile. I need to know if this predator hunting behavior indicates aggression toward all perceived competitors, or if there's something more complex at work. The research team exchanges uncertain glances as their commander departs. They've catalogued thousands of civilizations, but never one that so completely inverted the natural order. Humanity had just become the most fascinating, and potentially concerning, species in their database. Cultural specialist Vinra floats between holographic displays of human mythology, literature, and art in the ship's analysis chamber. Her slender fingers trace patterns in the air, rearranging the images to form connected themes. Each projection tells the same story from different perspectives, humans triumphing over beasts. Their earliest cultural narratives consistently feature humans defeating creatures larger and more physically formidable than themselves, she explains to the gathered senior staff. The holographic display shifts to show ancient Greek pottery depicting a muscular human battling a lion, Perseus beheading Medusa, Hercules strangling the Nemean lion, Beowulf tearing off Grendel's arm. She continues, cycling through artistic representations of each myth. These aren't isolated stories. They form the foundation of their cultural identity. Commander Zithflak studies the images with growing unease. Are you suggesting their predator consumption is culturally driven rather than survival-based? I believe it's both, Vinra replies, adjusting her display to show cave paintings from Earth's Paleolithic period. Primitive humans surrounding and spearing enormous mammoths and cave bears. They've been telling themselves stories of predator conquest since before they developed written language. It's foundational to their self-perception. Security Chief Mazron taps his clawed fingers against his exoframe. This suggests a potentially dangerous psychology. If their identity is tied to dominating larger predators, how would they perceive other sentient species? Before Vinra can respond, the chamber doors slide open. Trelvor enters, her usual composure fractured by excitement. You need to see this, she interrupts, patching her findings to the main display. Human physiology models rotate in the center of the room, highlighted circulatory and respiratory systems, pulsing with simulated life. They're persistence predators, she explains, highlighting the human cardiovascular and thermoregulatory systems. Unlike most predatory species, they didn't evolve for speed or strength. They evolved endurance. The display shows primitive humans tracking animals across savanna, maintaining a steady jog for hours until their quarry collapses from heat exhaustion. Most Earth predators sprint and ambush, but humans simply don't stop. Trelvor continues. They can perspire across their entire body surface, regulating temperature during extended exertion. No other mammal on their planet can match their long-distance running efficiency. So they exhaust their prey, Keltnav observes. Interesting, but that doesn't explain their predilection for hunting creatures that could easily kill them. This might, Trelvor responds, highlighting neural pathways in the human brain model. Their brains release reward chemicals during sustained physical challenges. See these endorphin pathways. They experience biochemical pleasure from the extended chase. Commander Zithflak moves closer to the display. You're saying they evolved to enjoy the hunt itself. Precisely, Trelvor confirms. And this reward system applies whether they're chasing prey or confronting predators. The risk increases the neural reward. The commander's gaze returns to the mythological displays. So we have a species that evolved to enjoy pursuit and confrontation, believes itself destined to triumph over larger predators, and now sits atop its planetary ecosystem, consuming apex predators as if they were common sustenance. She pauses, antennae quivering with concern. We need to re-evaluate our contact protocols. Standard approach procedures assume certain evolutionary constants that clearly don't apply to humans. Vinra gestures toward a final display, modern human entertainment media showing sharks portrayed as villains, monsters to be overcome. Their contemporary mythology continues the pattern. They cast themselves as heroes by defining predators as obstacles to be conquered. Or meals to be consumed, adds Mazran dryly. Commander Ziflak takes a final look at the rotating human physiological model. Expand surveillance. I want to understand their impact on their planet's apex predator populations. If they're systematically hunting creatures at the top of their food chain, the ecological implications could be significant. The senior staff disperses, each troubled by the emerging picture of humanity, a species whose cultural and biological development had taken a path utterly foreign to Vakarian understanding, a prey species that had somehow become the ultimate predator. These can't be accurate. Ecological systems analyst Pavarin rechecks the population models glowing on his display. The downward trends for Earth's apex predators, sharks, big cats, and premier hunters across multiple ecosystems all show the same pattern of decline. His fingers trace the falling lines, searching for calculation errors that might explain the disturbing data. Trelvor, now heading the research initiative, confirms his suspicions. The models are correct. I've verified them against multiple human scientific databases. They aren't just eating these predators, they are reducing their populations to critical levels. The command staff assembles around a three-dimensional projection of Earth's oceans. Red zones indicate shark population decline, covering nearly 70% of the marine habitats. Yellow zones show areas of recent recovery, small isolated regions where numbers have stabilized. Their impact is beyond anything we've seen from a pre-FTL civilization, Pavarin explains, his voice tight with professional concern. They're reshaping their entire planetary ecosystem through directed predator reduction. Commander Ziflak circles the projection, her reflective eyes tracking the red zones. Is this deliberate policy or an unintended consequence of their consumption habits? Both, it appears, responds Trelvor. She gestures, and the display shifts to show humans constructing massive enclosures containing predator species, lions, crocodiles, wolves, all under human control. They call these Zeus and wildlife reserves. They're simultaneously preserving and displaying the very predators their activities endanger. I don't understand, admits Science Officer Kalinov. Why preserve what they're hunting to extinction? Because they're beginning to recognize their impact, Trelvor explains. At least some human groups are. They've developed sciences dedicated to understanding ecological balance. They're actively working to preserve species they previously hunted without restriction. The display changes again, showing charts of conservation legislation implementation across Earth's nations. The timeline reveals an accelerating trend toward predator protection, particularly in the past 50 Earth years. So they destroy, then preserve, Ziflak summarizes. They decide which predators live, which are displayed, which are bred, and which diminish. Precisely, Trelvor confirms. They've assumed the ecological role of what our scientists would term a super apex species. They're not just predator consumers, they're predator controllers. The briefing continues with footage from an aquaculture facility where humans are breeding smaller shark species in controlled environments. Tanks larger than Valkyrian dwellings contain dozens of juvenile predators, swimming in endless circles, while automated systems monitor their health and growth. "They're literally farming predators," whispers a junior analyst, the concept clearly disturbing her. Creating systems specifically to produce apex hunters for consumption. Commander Ziflak studies the facility with growing comprehension. They've moved beyond hunting. They're manufacturing predators as resources. She turns to her first officer. "Prepare a priority transmission to High Command. Classification: perspective-altering discovery." As the command staff disperses, Trelvor remains beside the display, watching the human workers move casually among the shark tanks. One pauses to observe a particularly active specimen, making notes on a handheld device. His expression shows neither fear nor dominance, merely professional interest. "Something troubles you still?" Zithlak asks, noticing Trelvor's lingering presence. "I'm struggling to categorize them," Trelvor admits. "They don't fit our established species development models. They began as prey, became predators, and now function as ecosystem architects. What does that make them in galactic terms?" Zithlak's antennae sway gently as she considers the question. "Something new," she finally answers. "Something we've never encountered before." And that, junior analyst, is precisely why High Command needs to know immediately. As they exit the analysis chamber, the display continues cycling through images of human-predator interactions across Earth, shark fishing competitions alongside conservation efforts, trophy hunters beside wildlife rehabilitators, a planet of contradictions with humans at the center, reshaping the natural order according to their evolving whims. The Valkyrian High Command transmission arrives faster than protocol would normally allow. Commander Zithlak assembles the senior staff as the holographic message materializes in the command center. The air feels charged with tension as the crew awaits word for their distant leadership. High Counselor Veshtar's image flickers before stabilizing, her distinguished features grave beneath ceremonial markings that denote her elevated status. "Your discovery poses significant strategic questions, Commander. If humans treat apex predators as resources, how would they categorize species like ourselves?" The question hangs in the air, giving voice to the unspoken concern rippling through the crew. The Valkyrians, having evolved as prey animals, built their civilization around predator avoidance. Their technology focused on stealth, their social structures on collective security, their entire psychology shaped by the evolutionary imperative to detect and evade threats. The concept of a species that casually dominated predators threatens their fundamental worldview. All observation protocols remain in effect. Veshtar continues, her tone allowing no room for deviation. No contact without direct authorization. Determine whether humans represent potential allies or unprecedented threats. As the transmission ends, the command center erupts into rare discord. Security Chief Mazran immediately takes position at the commander's right. "We should withdraw from this system immediately," he argues, mandibles clicking with agitation. "A species that consumes apex predators would see us as easy targets. Our evolutionary history has made us cautious by nature. Theirs has made them conquerors." Science Officer Kelnav counters, "We cannot make assumptions based solely on their consumption habits. We need more data on their interspecies interactions. Their treatment of non-predator species may be entirely different." The ship divides into factions over the next rotation cycle. Mazran leads those advocating immediate withdrawal, their arguments centered around caution, the traditional Valkyrian response to potential threats. Others suggest that humans might make valuable allies precisely because of their predator-dominating capabilities, potentially protecting Vicarian interests against more aggressive spacefaring species. The debate intensifies when new footage arrives from a drone monitoring a high-status human gathering. A celebrated chef prepares an elaborate dish combining shark fin and lion meat, marketed as Predator's Platter, at an exclusive restaurant. The patrons consume it with evident pleasure, some even photographing the dish before eating. 3 junior analysts request immediate transfer to different departments after viewing the footage. Trelvor enters the ongoing debate in the officers' mess, presenting new intelligence that complicates the picture further. Look beyond their consumption habits, she urges, displaying footage of marine conservation efforts. Humans also protect predators. The screen shows humans carefully disentangling a juvenile great white shark from fishing nets, working quickly to return it to the ocean. Another sequence reveals humans passing laws restricting shark hunting in certain waters. The question isn't whether they're dangerous. Trelvor argues over the growing discord. All evidence suggests they are. The question is whether that danger is directed or indiscriminate, whether they're consuming predators from hunger or from a desire to prove dominance. Commander Ziflak silences the room with a raised hand. "We're missing something fundamental about their psychology," she states, her voice cutting through the debate. "They're not simply predator consumers or predator protectors. They're something more complex, a species with internal moral contradictions about their place in their ecosystem." She surveys the gathered officers, noting their divided opinions. "Prepare a contact scenario," she decides, silencing the immediate protests with a sharp gesture. "Limited, controlled, and with a specific human subgroup that might help us understand this contradiction." "Which subgroup?" asks Kalanav, already calculating possibilities. Ziflak's antennae angle forward decisively. "The ones trying to protect the very predators their kind consumes. They stand at the crossroads of humanity's contradictory nature. If anyone can explain this species to us, it will be those who recognize both sides of human behavior." As the meeting disperses, Mazran remains behind. "This is unprecedented, Commander. Direct contact with a pre-evaluation species violates core protocols." "So does a species that eats its predators," Ziflak responds quietly. "We're in uncharted territory, Security Chief, and we need to understand what we're facing before humanity reaches the stars. These humans are different." Trelvor gestures toward the coastal research station displayed in the briefing room hologram. The facility sits on stilts above turquoise waters, solar panels glinting in the Australian sunshine. For 3 days, the contact team has observed the shark conservation researchers working from their isolated location off the continent's western coast. They're trying to protect the very predators that other humans consume, she explains to the selected contact squad, 5 specialists, chosen for their adaptive thinking and exceptional self-control. They've dedicated their careers to understanding and preserving sharks. The team watches recorded footage as the researchers gently guide a juvenile great white into a temporary enclosure. The humans work with practiced efficiency, taking blood samples and measurements before releasing the predator. Their careful handling of the shark contradicts everything the Vicarians have observed about typical human-shark interactions. Their internal conflicts about predator treatment make them ideal for first contact, Commander Ziflak decides, surveying the chosen team. They're already thinking beyond simplistic predator-prey dynamics. Security Chief Mazran, present under protest, adjusts the tactical display. The research station houses 7 humans. 2 possess military training according to our background analysis, though neither has served in active combat roles. "What about weapons?" asks Telvan, the team's cultural specialist. "Standard marine research equipment, some of which could be repurposed as weapons," Mazran admits. But the facility itself isn't designed for defense. Their isolation is both tactical advantage and risk. No immediate reinforcements, but also no witnesses if contact goes poorly. Commander Zithlak studies the team dynamics displayed in the social analysis. "Focus on this human," she directs, highlighting a woman in her mid-30s. Dr. Elena Cowrie, the project leader. Our psychological profile suggests she combines scientific curiosity with exceptional empathy, rare traits together. She's published academic articles questioning humanity's relationship with apex predators. The contact team receives one final briefing on human communication styles and potential threat responses. As specialists adjust their atmospheric suits, designed to protect against Earth's nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere, new information arrives from the cultural analysis team. "Commander, we've discovered something relevant," reports Vinra, transmitting data to the briefing room display. "Humans have developed lab-grown meat technology, including synthetic shark products designed to reduce fishing pressure on wild populations." The display shows sleek packaging with "no sharks harmed," prominently featured in human text. Molecular analysis confirms the product contains protein structures identical to shark meat, but produced through cellular agriculture rather than harvesting. They've created technology specifically to avoid consuming wild predators. Trelvor marvels, studying the production facility imagery. They've recognized their impact on these species and are attempting technological solutions to their own predatory behavior. Commander Zithlak considers this final piece of information before addressing the contact team. This reinforces our approach. These researchers represent an emerging human consciousness about their relationship with predators. They're beginning to question behaviors their species has engaged in for millennia. Her final instructions are simple. Observe these researchers closely for 2 additional cycles. Reveal yourselves only if circumstances are ideal, and remember, these are beings who evolved to chase prey until it collapses for exhaustion. Do not allow yourselves to be separated from the extraction point. As the team boards their atmospheric craft, sleek and silent like all Valkyrian technology, Zithlak returns to the observation dome. The blue planet rotates below, deceptively peaceful from orbit. "Send me their genetic profile again," she requests of the ship's eye. "I want to understand how a prey species evolved into something that eats its own predators." The display fills with human DNA sequences, impossibly complex yet somehow leading to a creature that had defied evolutionary expectations. Somewhere in those genetic instructions lay the explanation for a species that had transcended its place in the natural order, becoming something entirely new. "Good hunting," she whispers to the departing team, then grimaces at her own choice of words. On a world where humans were the ultimate hunters, her team would need to remember they were the potential prey. Moonlight shivers across the ocean surface as Dr. Elena Cowrie and her research team track a tagged great white off their small vessel. The shark's signal has been erratic for days, suggesting potential injury or unusual behavior patterns. Cool night air carries the scent of salt and diesel as the researchers work in practiced coordination. Signal strengthening calls her assistant, Jamal, adjusting receiver settings. She's approaching from the southeast. Whatever she's doing, she's coming closer to investigate us. Elena adjusts the underwater cameras, unaware that other eyes are watching. Trelvor and her contact team, using advanced camouflage technology, observe from mere meters away on their own silent craft. For 3 nights, they shadowed this research team, analyzing their interactions with the ocean's apex predators. "They're protecting the very creatures their species hunts," whispers Telvan, the team's cultural specialist. I can't reconcile the contradiction. Through enhancement visors, the Vicarians watch Dr. Cowrie lean over the vessel's edge, studying sonar readings with focused intensity. Unlike most humans they've observed interacting with sharks, these researchers show neither fear nor dominance, only scientific curiosity and what their cultural analysis suggests might be respect. Movement at 3 o'clock, calls another researcher. Large signature, definitely our girl. Beneath the waves, a 5-meter great white circles beneath the research vessel. The shark's powerful form appears ghostly in the moonlight filtering through shallow water. The humans activate additional cameras and tracking equipment, their movements efficient but careful. Trelvor's decision crystallizes as she watches Dr. Curie speak softly to her team, coordinating their movements with practiced precision. These humans represent the complexity the Vicarians need to understand. With a subtle gesture to her team, she disengages the camouflage field. The humans freeze as the Vicarians appear, seemingly from empty air. 5 slender, exoskeleton-clad figures with reflective eyes and delicate antennae materialize on a craft that makes no sound and bears no visible propulsion system. Their appearance is both insectoid and graceful, evolutionary history evident in their cautious postures and vigilant eyes. Their reactions aren't fear or aggression, but something the aliens find even more confounding: intense curiosity. After the initial shock, wide eyes, racing pulses detected by Vicarian bioscanners, the humans exchange glances and Dr. Curie steps forward, placing herself between her team and the visitors. "We mean no harm," Trelvor says through the translation device at her throat, the words emerging in carefully modulated English. "We seek understanding." After a moment of stunned silence, Dr. Curie approaches with controlled caution, her heart rate elevated but steady. Understanding of what? "Your relationship with your planet's apex predators," Trelvor explains, gesturing toward the water where the great white continues to circle. "You consume them. You protect them. You hunt them. You study them. These behaviors are contradictory." Elena's scientific training overrides her shock. "You've been studying us," she realizes, glancing toward her team members who remain frozen in place. "Yes," Trelvor acknowledges, "your species presents unique evolutionary developments." The conversation unfolds carefully, the humans gradually relaxing as they realize the aliens pose no immediate threat. Elena explains their complicated history with sharks, from fear-driven persecution to conservation efforts. Her voice grows passionate when describing declining shark populations. "Some humans still see sharks only as threats or resources," she explains, gesturing toward the water. "We're trying to change that perception, to help people understand their ecological importance." When Trelvor hesitantly inquires about shark consumption, Elena launches into a detailed explanation of finning practices and their devastating impacts. "It's unsustainable and cruel," she says, her intensity surprising the Vicarians. "We're fighting against our own species' worst impulses." The statement captures the essence of what makes humans unique in the Vicarians' experience, their capacity to question and oppose their own evolutionary instincts. As the conversation continues under the moonlight, the great white shark circles below, unaware it has brought together 2 species separated by vast evolutionary histories, but connected by a shared capacity for curiosity. And in that moment, with predator below and former prey species in conversation above, something unprecedented in galactic history unfolds. the beginning of understanding between profoundly different evolutionary paths. Commander Zithlak stands motionless before the High Council's holographic avatars, her formal report completed. The chamber remains silent as the 12 most powerful Vicarians process the contact team's findings. Their antennae shift in subtle patterns, conveying emotional responses too nuanced for verbal expression. "You're certain of these observations?" High Councillor Veshtar finally asks, breaking the weighted silence. Humans not only consume apex predators, but simultaneously work to protect them. The contradiction defines them. Zithlak confirms, gesturing to activate the central display. They are neither exclusively predator nor prey. They operate outside the ecological categories we've used to classify sentient species. The display behind her shows footage from the contact. Humans and Vicarians side by side, observing the great white shark from Dr. Cowrey's research vessel. The image captures the essence of what makes humans unique, their ability to both respect and transcend their position in the food chain. Dr. Cowrey's team represents an emerging philosophy among humans, Zithlak continues. They recognize their species' impact on predator populations and actively work against their own evolutionary success. She gestures to population models showing Earth's evolutionary timeline. Their evolutionary history shaped them differently than any species we've encountered. They began as vulnerable prey, developed cooperative hunting strategies that allowed them to challenge larger predators, and eventually achieved such dominance that they now determine which predators thrive and which diminish. The display shifts to show human development through the ages, from primitive hunters with spears to modern conservation teams tagging sharks. They've compressed ecological changes that should take millions of years into mere centuries. They're actively directing their planet's evolutionary future. Trelvor steps forward at the commander's signal, her status elevated following the successful contact mission. Most significantly, they understand their power, and some of them have begun questioning how to use it responsibly. The researchers we contacted represent an emerging human philosophy that their dominance brings ecological responsibility. The High Council deliberates, their private communication channel humming with unprecedented activity. Zithlak waits, knowing the implications of her team's discoveries extend far beyond standard contact protocols. Finally, Veshtar addresses the command crew. "Based on your findings, we hereby classify humans as a Category Omega species, beyond standard ecological categorization. Despite their pre-FTL status, they are to be approached as potential equals rather than as developmental subjects." The designation sends ripples of surprise through the gathered officers. No species has received Omega classification without first achieving interstellar travel. The implications are profound. Humans will be monitored but respected, studied but not interfered with as they develop. Their ability to transcend their own evolutionary programming suggests they will eventually reach the stars with a uniqueness of perspective valuable to the galactic community, Veshtar concludes. Establish observation protocols that acknowledge this potential. As the transmission ends, Commander Zithlak returns to the observation dome. Earth rotates serenely below, its blue oceans hiding countless sharks that swim at humans' sufferance. "Prepare departure protocols," she orders, "and establish a permanent observation outpost in this system. I want to know what these apex-eating contradictions do next." The Eternal Vigilance begins its departure sequence as the onboard systems process one final transmission from Dr. Cowrey's research station, an invitation to return for their seasonal release of rehabilitated juvenile great whites. "Send acknowledgement," Zithlak tells the communications officer. And add, We look forward to observing your continuing relationship with your world's supreme predators. As Earth diminishes behind them, the commander makes her final log entry. We came expecting to find another world of predators and prey. Instead, we found humans, a species that transcended that dynamic so completely that they decide which predators survive. If they reach the stars, the galaxy's understanding of ecological order will never be the same. In the vastness of space, the Valkyrian vessel accelerates toward home, carrying news of a species unlike any other, creatures who had taken the unprecedented evolutionary path from prey to apex predator to something entirely new, conscious architects of their planet's ecological future. The contradiction that had first confounded them now represented humanity's greatest potential contribution to galactic diversity. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Cowrey's team continues their work, protecting the very creatures that other humans consume, unaware that their efforts had forever changed two species' destinies.